Woe to you, O earth and sea.
It's the Hop Nation
USA Podcast.
It's episode 200 of the Hop Nation USA podcast. And boy, oh boy, I'm just going to throw this out real quick because there's a good chance we might have some new listeners. If you want to email us, just hit us up at hopnationusa@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at hopnationusa. But with that, I am your host, Steve. As always, I'm here. But you know what? For our faithful YouTube watchers, I have a bit of a surprise for you. I'm no longer going to be the floating head. I've gone out of my way to purchase a Zoom camera so we can look face to face. And that's partly because of the episode we're doing tonight. But of course, I'm your host, Steve. My co-host, Adam, is always here.
Of course, I must say, first of all, congratulations for breaking out of the computer and the cybernetic world that you were in for the last 14 months.
Sort of. It's still
Congratulations.
I'm still part of it.
You're into the 3D realm now.
Yeah, fair enough. Everybody can see the grays in my beard for real and know that little animated head I made was, relatively accurate.
Yeah, you get to live in my world now where everybody gets to see the beard and the hair start to get a little whiter and a little whiter as the year went along.
Yeah, but
Welcome.
Also, I felt it would be disrespectful to our guest tonight to make him talk to the floating spatial head. Because this week we have a true Pittsburgh legend on the show.
Yes.
Tonight we get to talk to Rick Sebak. Welcome, Rick, to the show.
I'm honored to be here. I didn't realize it was 200.
Yes.
I thought it was 100, so I was wrong. 200, that's excellent.
Yeah, we've been doing it for 4 years.
And you've never appeared before?
Huh?
And you've never appeared on here before? You've just been a floating...
Yeah. No, I've always
icon?
been a floating head because I was simply just did not own a camera when the pandemic started. Like, we didn't start doing these Zoom shows until the pandemic started. And then I didn't buy a camera. And then it just kind of became the bit that I was an animated cartoon head stuck in the computer.
Huh. And did its mouth move as you spoke?
It did not. I could not figure out that technology.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on my own show. But yes, of course, we still are going to talk beer, and we're going to talk to Rick tonight all about the things he has going on and all the films he's made and beers he enjoys. And just a little tease, Rick has his own drink that we get to talk about, and I might have a little bit poured up for myself on the side. But first, let's get into the beers we're all drinking tonight. And I'll let Rick go first because he is our guest.
Are we supposed to reveal all the beers that I have?
Oh, just one. Just pick one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did. I have and I took my glasses off. I have an Old Thunder.
Ooh.
Toe Motorin American Pale Ale from Old Thunder Brewing Company, which I understand is in Blawnox. I got these interesting beers from Pete Kurzweg at Independent Brewing Company in Squirrel Hill. And I had one brew gentleman in my fridge, and I told Pete that I said I need a couple of other interesting beers, so he was very generous. And this one, I've never been to Old Thunder Brewing Company, but I love Blawnox. My favorite Thai restaurant is there. So
nice.
I thought, so are we actually starting?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Sure.
I can open this, and actually, because I stopped last night and saw Adam, I can use my Pop Nation glass.
Oh, that is a thing of beauty right there.
A little bit of proper glassware.
It's a little bit of a big head, but I've never used this glass before.
Yeah.
So
You'll get used to it.
But looks good to me. Smells good.
So we've had some Old Thunder on the show before. I'm a fan of their beers. And I believe they just opened up their brewery space, their bar and such in the last week or two.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
So they are open to the public officially now. So I have to make a trip out there. That's going to be bridges and tunnels to get there. But I think that'll be worth it.
Yeah, it's bridges, tunnels, and 28. Oof.
That's the unholy
my.
trifecta.
Yeah. But yeah, I like what they're putting out too. And, you know, we're excited to get into that space at some point and hopefully talk to them.
Yes.
So
I say it's really good. It's a little, maybe a little peppery, but very, very good.
Nice.
nice.
Happy. It's a American Pale Ale. So that's my.
A little bit of spice, but not too overwhelming. That's cool.
No, not at all. In fact, it tastes great.
Good.
Awesome.
I think I was a little bit thirsty too.
I can't really throw stones because I'm about halfway through my first one already.
All right, what is that?
So I have something from Verona. This is the Inner Groove 5-foot bunch. This is their Hefeweizen. And this is the first time that I think I have had anything from Inner Groove on the show. I know that we've had it on the show before, but this is the first time I've had it on the show. And I got to say, this is an absolute winner. I am a big fan of Hefeweizens. Second week in a row, I've been able to have one of those. To me, Hefeweizens are an absolute staple when it comes to the beer portfolio. If you can make a good Hefe, you know what you're doing. This one, like I said, I already gotten into this one. So when I poured this out, it did have a nice fluffy head to it, like most Hefeweizens and wheat beers should have. So right off the bat, I already knew they were doing something right. And what's nice with this beer, since it's a Hefeweizen, it's supposed to have a good banana-y flavor to it. And with the name 5-foot bunch, you would expect that. And fortunately, Inner Groove absolutely nailed it. And it's got a good banana flavor to it. It's got a touch of the clove that you would expect with a Hefe, but it's much more on the banana side. And from what I'm drinking so far, I think this is probably one of the 5 best Hefeweizens I've ever had.
Wow.
And so I am really impressed with this beer. I am a fan.
That's a lot of praise, especially for somebody who drinks a lot of Hefes.
How many brew pubs do you think there are in Verona? Is it just one? Inner Groove?
I believe there's another one at least close to it. Isn't the Vault near that, or is that more of an export?
That kind of gets into that area where it's all kind of they all kind of come together.
Yeah.
But
I've been to a brew pub in Verona, and I assume that's the one we're talking about, Inner Groove. They had the Pittsburgh Smokehouse truck there, like on a Sunday afternoon, and I follow the Pittsburgh Smokehouse truck. And, I stopped by, but then I went in and had a beer too, and it was really great. And it was a night. That's pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
it seems very free and easy right now. Remember those days when you could just go up to the truck and walk into the bar, and everybody was having a good time.
We will get back there though. We will.
I think so.
One way or another, we'll get back there.
Yeah, especially, I mean, weather is getting nice now. A lot more food trucks are showing up again, so it's pretty easy to just go somewhere, and as long as it doesn't rain.
The food truck business hasn't been hurt that bad by the pandemic. That they, in fact, my friend Andy Winsko, who runs the Pittsburgh Smokehouse, said that the whole idea of a food truck showing up in a neighborhood really took off during the pandemic. That they could just come and park in a neighborhood, and people would know that, oh, we can come get dinner, don't have to cook, something different. And he said that he was enjoying that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's all takeout, so yeah, of course it works.
And it's something a bit rare where you can be together but separate at the same time.
Right, and they don't have to have tables outside 6 feet apart. And all of that.
Right,
you just come get the food and take it home.
Yeah.
So how about you, Steve? What do you got in the glass for segment 1?
So for myself, I have a bit of Hop Farm going, and it's called their Dark Side of Larry, and it is a dark Czech style lager. I'll put it up here on the screen so you can see. Yes, it's a dark Czech style, 4.8% on the ABV, and it's got a real nice maltiness to it. but it's not overly like caramelly. It's not overly sweet in any way. It just seems to be very balanced. It's a really good kind of dark beer that also like reminds me of Doppelbocks, things of that nature.
This sounds like a kind of beer that would be right up your alley if they added a little bit of smoke to it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If they smoked this beer, it would be probably one of my top 5. How about that?
You would just park yourself at the bar and just say, keep them coming.
Yeah, because it has pretty much all the callings of, some of those Schlenkerla beers that we've had in the past, of the maltiness. You get a lot of the same backbone flavors, but it just doesn't have the smoke. But yeah, otherwise it's a really good beer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't believe that I've seen that. That must be a new one from Hop Farm. I don't believe I've seen that out and about yet.
I think I saw it come out a couple weeks ago, but other than that, Hop Farm has got that kind of new distribution into the areas that we shop. So we've been seeing a lot more Hop Farm at like House of Brews, and I saw this one and I like darker lagers, so I picked it up.
And we like Hop Farm, so what's not to lose?
Yes, both. Both are
Yes.
good. But yeah, so that's what we're drinking in segment 1. And now we're going to get into our guest, because it's episode 200. We have to celebrate the show. And obviously we're celebrating with a Pittsburgh legend, because our show is also a Pittsburgh legend. How about that?
At least in our own minds.
Yeah, I can stay humble, right?
Are most of your guests Pittsburgh people?
We have expanded a bit, again, because of the pandemic. Like it opened it up, but like most of the time, yeah, we're speaking to a lot of breweries in Pittsburgh, and as things are opening up, we can't wait to get back in and start talking to brewers and letting them tell their stories. So, but we also kind of like the ability that we've had to speak to people all over the country that these Zoom episodes have opened up.
Cool.
Yeah, but first and foremost, I want to get back in the breweries.
Yeah.
Oh. Actually, mentioning Hop, I used to go to Hop Farm all the time, but I haven't been there in a long time. But I think that's the truth of a lot of places. We just haven't been out and about.
I've got a mental list going of once everything is back open up and I'm comfortable, I'm gonna have me a Saturday where me and my Uber driver are gonna have a really good day.
Sure. I mean, they'll get paid and you'll get driven around, carted about.
Maybe I'll treat myself and just get a limo for the day.
Sure, you can do that too. I mean, might as well invite friends to split that cost, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. You can come, Steve. Rick, you can come too.
Okay, I remember you said that.
But yes, for the people listening, because Rick, we are a bit of an international show. We do have listeners in Ireland and Germany, and we do have listeners all over the country. So for the people who don't know, Rick is a documentarian who has been working with our local PBS station for over 30 years at this point. And he's made documentaries about Pittsburgh, but also things across the country, like amusement parks, hot dogs, flea markets, everything and anything under the sun that is unique and has a flair for, I would say, just a down homeness, a very blue collar sensibilities as well. Is that fair?
That's nice. Yeah, I don't mind that. I always say, I try to find parts of American culture that maybe we take for granted and see if I can celebrate them. That's sort of the way I look at it. So, whether it be, sandwiches or cemeteries or whatever, it, various parts of the culture that, pay a little bit more attention to. I mean, but I'm totally convinced that if you look at anything long enough, it's interesting. So,
and I guess like I grew up going to film school. Like you kind of learn when you do documentary film, you learn to find the stories. Even if it's quote unquote mundane, you kind of learn to find the stories because every story has a person behind it.
Right.
And so that's why, you're talking about things people take for granted, but there's a lot of stories behind all of it. And I think one of the best examples is, you did a series called Things That Aren't Here Anymore, and then Stuff That Is Gone, which was a lot of Pittsburgh things that, people don't get to experience because they're gone, of course. But you had interviews with people. I was watching the episode where you interviewed a woman who did the Party Line radio hour.
Yeah, Wendy King.
Yeah, Wendy King. Her and her husband did the Party Line radio hour, and then you were able to talk with her in a more modern day setting and looking back at that. And she obviously has a story to tell with, coming up in very early media, especially in Pittsburgh on KDKA, like when that was one of 3 stations to listen to, maybe.
Well, I mean, it was a clear channel station, so especially at night, people all over the country could get it, and that's when Party Line was on. Actually, I often use it as an example. I think Party Line was on 6 nights a week, for 12 years, and then it was on 5 nights a week for another 20 or something like that. An incredible amount. And when I did that story, I went to KDK Radio and said, what have you got in the way of an archive of, Party Line? Nothing. They didn't have one.
Oh, they didn't keep a thing.
No, because you know what? Back then, in those days, people didn't think, oh, we need to make a tape, we need to keep this, that kind of stuff. I would say in general, people assume that TV stations and radio stations have vast archives. And that's totally not true. Actually, I saw somebody who sent me a thing that I'm sure all the stations in town have video about the opening of Century 3 Mall. And I thought, probably not. They may have been there, but I don't think they kept any of that. There are bits that they have, but usually they're squirreled away by someone who works there, who had a connection or something. And sometimes that's what you got to do, is find the person who has the goods, Wendy was, I've used her sometimes as an example of persistence. I just kept calling her. I remembered that show from when I was a kid, because my grandmother listened to it religiously, and my mother often turned it on as well. And KDKA radio sort of ruled at the time. It was AM, 1020. Her husband had died. I'm going to say he died in 1970 or 71, and she hadn't really talked about it since. But I thought, well, let's see if she'll talk now. And, it was many years later. And I just kept calling her, and it was fun to talk to her and to hear her voice again. And finally, one day she said, listen, I think I'll do this, but I'll only do it if you'll do it in my attic. I said, wow, that's spectacular. Right. In order to get to her attic, you had to go through her clothes closet. And we shot all that. We taped all that and getting up the stairs and all of that to where she had boxes, not of tapes, but of memorabilia and files from when she did the show with her husband. And it was merely a matter of he was doing this show at night, and then she would just go in and sit there in the studio with him. And then all of a sudden it just started to make sense that he would talk to her because she was there. And so, she wasn't originally a planned part of the program, but she became an indispensable part of it. So she passed away a couple of years ago. I got to go, I remember, to the memorial service, but she was a great woman, and, a voice that for a long time, everyone in Pittsburgh knew. And, it's another example of, no matter how popular you are, once you're not there on the screen and all of that, you'll fade fast.
But at least you were able to, again, make an archive and have some record of her story.
Oh, right. And through her, I was able to find someone in her family who had saved some tapes. And so we have tapes, and you can hear them say, hello, Party Line. The thing was, there was a call-in show, but you never heard the caller. And they would, sort of rephrase everything as they heard it. The technology existed at the time to put the caller on, but they didn't want to do that. And so as a 7th grader, I knew the answer one night to one of their questions. They would have these party pretzels where they would ask a trivia question or something like that. But it was something we had just had in school, the bird with the largest wingspan. And I knew it was the South American condor. And my mother said, "Well, call, tell them that you know it." And I got through, and I remember Wendy answered, and she said, "Hello, we have a young man on the phone from Bethel Park, and he says he knows the answer to the bird with the longest wingspan, and he says it's the South American condor." I wasn't finished with my sentences before she was re-saying them over the air. So, but it was a good time, and it was some great memories, and then I was really happy to meet her and have a chance to talk to her about all that. So
awesome.
That's what I get to do. That's what makes my job so excellent. And I mean, the best thing about my job is it changes all the time. And, you get tired of something, it's going to be totally different in 2 months. You're going to be working on something else.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings up a question. Whenever you start down a path, is that something that usually you begin because of a personal interest, or is that something that's sort of planned out as a group and a team, or is it kind of a case by case basis? How do you get started down a path?
Yeah, it depends. It's different every time. I guess the longer I've been there, the more input I have in it. I mean, when I started at QED, I got assignments, but I'd worked for 10 years or 11 years for public broadcasting in South Carolina before I came back to Pittsburgh. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I went to school in North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and then I worked for 11 years in South Carolina for public broadcasting. So I had learned that lesson that when you think something's not going to be fun or interesting or something, you could be very wrong. All you have to do is go in with that right attitude and I remember when I worked in South Carolina, my boss there saying to me, "Rick, you're not going to like the sound of this at the beginning, but I think this is a really good chance and an opportunity for you." She said, we were a state agency there. Public television was a state agency in South Carolina, still is. And so sometimes we had to do things for various other state agencies, somewhat like an ad agency almost. But she said, the governor's office wants us to do a show on rural water and sewer conditions.
It sounds like a real humdinger.
But she knew, she said, but you're going to work with I.D. Quincy Newman, and I think you will find that very interesting. And it was an astounding experience. I.D. Quincy Newman was the head of the NAACP all through the civil rights era in South Carolina. He was so beloved by so many people, and he had the best stories. I mean, incredible, incredible stories, and incredible personal stories as well. And I got to just drive around South Carolina for like 2 weeks with him, checking out possible stories, seeing what we could see where were there little problems with rural water and sewer conditions. And some of them were scary and some were just, pitiful. And he dealt with them all. He worked in the governor's office, and now when I drive into South Carolina, if I drive down to Columbia where I lived, as you come into Columbia on the interstate, that is the I.D. Quincy Newman Highway. And I just always think like, wow, he's a highway. he's immortal. So, but that's the kind of thing. And so I don't really mind the assignment, but, and actually the most recent national shows I've done for PBS, I did one called A Few Good Pie Places and A Few Great Bakeries. That started out as 3 programs about pies. And I proposed that we do sweet pies, savory pies, and pizza pies.
Ooh.
And the guy I was working with at PBS, Donald Toms, he said, I don't think we're going to go into pizza. Let's just talk about sweet pies and maybe savory pies. And then he came back to me at one point and said, what would you think about pies and cakes? And I said, I don't love a cake the way I love a pie.
I'm right there with you.
And I said, what if we did bakeries? Because I love bakeries. And he said, oh, that'd be okay. And then he greenlit those 2 programs. And it ended up being, a labor of love. And, I hope I get to do another. I put a proposal in last March, which I said is like really terrible timing.
A lot of things happened for people last March. It wasn't great timing.
I look at it now and I say, like, it looks like a joke.
Yeah.
But I put in a proposal to do 4 shows about numbered highways, because I think that's one of my like ideal things. I love that highways connect everything, and it gives you license to do a story about anything along that highway, and make all kinds of weird connections and that kind of stuff. So I still wouldn't mind trying to do that, but I don't know what the status of that proposal is, or how do we revive it, or is it a
It's a nice way to travel. I mean, you can get in the big ones like 79, 80, 66.
Well, I mean, I sort of didn't want to do interstates, but I didn't want to rule them out, because I know that, like, I mean, I did a show about the Lincoln Highway across America.
Mm-hmm.
And there are places like in Wyoming where there's not a 2-lane option. The 2-lane is under the interstate. And, you can't always be on the funky old 2-lane. So I still love to drive. And, if we do anything east of the Mississippi, we drive. And I like that very much. If we're going to go to the West Coast and to Montana, I would still like to drive, but it's too expensive to get through.
Yeah.
And so, I hope that doesn't die totally, but I've also been thinking of things that would make a good show. I mean, what I like to try to do, and what PBS likes, I think, is that we try to find subjects that are truly multicultural. Like, I'm not doing minority programming, but multicultural programming.
Right.
Mhm.
Where we show like how a bakery can be Japanese bakery in Sacramento. It can be African-American young woman with a truck in Durham. I mean, we covered all those things. It's, they're all bakeries and they're all really fun. And if you just take the time, you'll learn to love them.
Would you possibly consider doing a beer fest focused? Because
it's really funny. I mean, like, obviously I think, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
Although I remember real early on at QED, I proposed doing pubs of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And was, told no way. We didn't want to encourage drinking.
Right.
I think that whole thing has changed.
Yeah. Thinking to the future, we have Barrel and Flow Fest that's occurring in the Southside Works, and that's obviously like a multicultural event. But there's also a whole bunch of other beer fests across the country. Like, you have Oktoberfests in Columbus, Ohio. You have some more stranger ones that are out in the West.
We have Fresh Fest right here in Pittsburgh.
Well, that's what Barrel and Flow Fest has become.
I see.
That's their name. Fresh Fest became Barrel and Flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first year it's not called the Fresh Fest.
Right. Yeah. It became Barrel and Flow, but that's a huge multicultural event, because it's not just beer; it's music, it's art, it's food.
I was going to say, I often think it's the best beer festival that I've been to.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Yeah, it's really up there.
It's so wild, and it lets you know of a world you didn't know existed.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been to beer festivals like at the Carey Furnace, and they're great fun, but there isn't that mix of people, and that's what I loved about the Fresh Fest or of Barrel and Flow.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Barrel and Flow. Yeah. So, like, the one at the Carey Furnace, that's Beers of the Berg, and that one's pretty good because it focuses on Pittsburgh breweries. And then there's the one that's like at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center, and that's all very corporate, and that one's even more
I don't think I've ever been.
yeah, don't bother. that one's for like young kids to just go get wasted at. It's not.
Say, Steve, your gray beard is starting to talk now.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm old. I don't care. I don't need to put money in their pocket. I don't care.
I say I can't really make fun because I'm older than you. So
Yeah, but
Well, I mean, I can remember, in my the first hour-long documentary I did here in Pittsburgh, which would have been in 1987 and 88, I think, called The Ma and the Al and the O. I went to Iron City Brewery because I wanted to show that, Allegheny River water came in and became Iron City beer, and then we had great shots of people on pontoon boats drinking beer. And at that point, Iron City was unusual in that it was a great local beer.
right.
If I went back to visit friends in South Carolina, they would assume I would have at least 2 or 3 cases of Iron City and Icy Light in my car. Now, I mean, what would you do? There's so many beers, but I think the most amazing thing is that beer tastes so much better
Oh, absolutely.
than it ever did when I was in college or anything. I mean, talk about, the gray in your beard. I mean, beer was like, it was almost water, and now it is just like, so many different flavors and tastes, and, the effect of this kind of hops and that kind of hops. And, it's endless. It's just, and it's wonderful. It's like an explosion of, pleasure that you didn't. I don't know that I would ever have predicted it, or but I think it's a wonderful part of modern life.
Yeah,
I assume it's a little bit maybe like in the late 18th century when there were a lot of little local breweries, and if you went to this town you would have a different beer than if you went to this town, and it would depend on which part of Germany that guy came from,
Right.
or,
right.
yeah.
You're absolutely right, and a lot of it is also dependent on like just kind of the crops that we have compared to what was in the past. Like you're talking about the hops, we have so many different hop strains compared to like the 3 or 4 that were pre 1800s. So yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, were they around? You
Not
think
really.
they've been like genetically modified now that they're new, or
yeah, it's a lot of
discovered them?
it's a lot of crossbreeding. I think there is some wild ones that were maybe found, but I think there's a lot of crossbreeding, and then just like climate, temperature, where they're grown, because we're getting a lot of stuff that's grown out of New Zealand and Australia now. There's a lot of things that come from South Africa. So yeah.
Right. No, I think we did an amusement park up in Oregon, and I think it was the hop harvest time of the year when we were there or something, and I just thought, I never thought where that came from.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think like 1700s. Most of the time, hops were grown like here in PA,
Right.
but like nobody had even moved into Oregon. Like that was
Right. There was no Oregon.
yeah, there was no Oregon.
Hey, yeah. Lewis and Clark is until 1803.
Right.
Right.
And I don't know that. I don't think there was a Native American beer, but
Not that I know of. They may have had some sort of like maybe corn fermented drink or something like that. But my history isn't good enough. To know.
Beyond that, you start getting into stuff like the chicha, but that's more Central and Southern America.
Right. Exactly. I think everybody had their own specialty drink, but yeah, it wasn't like a beer as we would know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, like, I don't know what makes something a beer. Is there what is the basis? Does it have to be
hops, water, barley, and yeast?
That's it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's the old German Reinheitsgebot. So if you go by that, as long as it has those 4, it's beer.
But if you post that question on Twitter, you'll get 800 different answers.
That's
yeah. Because then people.
rules.
Yeah, people get into Swedish sautés, and then you have like more French-made spruce tip beers that didn't really rely on hops. So yeah, it's whatever.
It's the Wild West. Beer is just the Wild West.
Yeah, but
and that's great.
yeah, for sure.
Great. It's really nice.
So speaking of beer, though, let's get back to the ones that we were drinking. Rick, if you would like to come back to your Old Thunder, how's that treating you?
I'm really enjoying it, and I just thought I might pour the rest of it in this glass, so that I'm sorry. There we go. And these are hops over here. I don't know what the background is supposed to be.
It was based off a video game that came out, Cyberpunk 2077. I don't expect you to get it. It's fine.
What was the name of the game?
Cyberpunk 2077. Not even my co-host was really into it. It's just something I'm into.
Well, no, it's funny. Because of Mortal Kombat coming out, I heard it on NPR, and obviously the woman who was doing the interviewing, that was the game she played,
right,
when it came out. And I just thought, like, oh, it's like TV shows. I mean, I was totally addicted to video games, but I knew a different generation of games than she knew. I don't think I've ever played Mortal Kombat, but there's one that I remember liking very much called Quix. QUX, I think it was how it was spelled. And it was a primitive early game. I mean, we were playing Pac-Man and Space Invaders, and
so like maybe on an Atari or a Commodore 64, maybe.
No, totally in an arcade.
Oh, okay. the big console boxes.
Yeah. I've never had an arcade. I mean, I never had a box. There was a great place in Columbia, South Carolina, when I was living there, called Frank's Hot Dogs. And they had great hot dogs. And I mean, they had breakfast in the morning, great hot dogs at lunch and at dinner. But then they had a back room that they had pool tables and lined all the way around with, consoles. Yeah. I mean, that's the way everybody played video games at first, I guess.
A quarter at a time.
A quarter at a time. And how many quarters did I put in those machines?
House payments.
Well, I think, you can think about that. How many quarters you put in? We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with segment 2. And I'm actually looking forward to talk about Rick Sebak's new cocktail, also known as the Gentleman's Breakfast. So we'll get into that in segment 2, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to episode 200 of the Hop Nation USA podcast. I'm still Steve. Adam's still Adam. And Pittsburgh legend Rick Sebak is still Rick Sebak.
That's right. That ad break did not change that much on this show.
No, I didn't. But yes, we're also still drinking beer. So let's jump right into our beers for the second segment. And I'll go first, just to go first. And I'm drinking some Brew Gentlemen tonight. And I've got...
Very nice.
Yes. Some people are participating in No IPA May, but that's not me, because I have a Brew Gentleman Overgrowth, which is very much an IPA. But it's nice, refreshing. It's an American Pale Ale brewed with Nelson Sauvignon and Mosaic hops. Anybody who knows the program knows that I love Mosaic hop beers, and obviously that's why I picked this one up. 5.2% on the ABV, and I tell you what, when you pop that little Red Bull can that they have, it's incredibly fresh. Like, it hits you right on the nose. Adam, you'd hate this beer.
I as a participant of No IPA May, I would expect that.
Yeah. But it's generally kind of soft, but there is a bitter back end to it, which is what you would hate. And it also just has a lot of bright citrus notes on it. But yeah, good drinking beer otherwise. I'm enjoying it. Adam?
So taking a look on the video version, does it have a bit of haziness to it there?
It's hazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very light pineapple juice.
So it's definitely New England-esque.
Sure. I don't even know that people define New England anymore. I think it's just like, man, this is the way IPAs are now. We don't filter.
If it's not West Coast, it's New England.
Exactly.
I get that.
Yeah. Adam, what are you drinking?
So for me, I have something from a newer brewery in Harmony, Union Brothers Brewing. This is their Sauced. It is a blueberry mango sour beer. This clocks in at 5.5% ABV. just like in the last segment, I kind of got into it a little bit. So it doesn't look that great on camera, but looking at it here live, it does have a nice kind of a deep blueberry puree kind of look to it.
Okay.
It's really good. I really like it. I know we've had Union Brothers on the show before. I really like the sour program they got going on there, and this is another winner.
Yeah.
I like what they're doing.
Yeah, we've had the sauce before. I think it was the mango, just pure mango one that we had previously.
Believe,
yeah.
This is definitely not a diet beer. I will tell you that.
No, it's candy desserts.
That's all it is. It's treats.
And what fruits were involved?
It was blueberry and mango.
Sounds good.
Oh, it is delicious.
Oh.
And it's labeled as a sour, but this again goes back to sort of the fruit puree sour, where it has more of a tartness rather than a straight up sour. So, Steve, I think you would be about this one.
Yeah, I like previous versions from Sauce series, and again, you're saying it's so fruity and sugary that it kind of balances. So, yeah, I'm into.
Oh
it.
yeah, you drink 2 of these, you'll be bouncing off the walls.
Great. And Mr. Sebak, what are you drinking this segment?
Well, I haven't opened anything yet. I also have a brewed gentleman here.
Oh, nice.
Muchos mahalos. There we go.
There you go.
I don't think I'm going to do that, but I wanted to acknowledge that that's probably what I drink the most of.
Brewed gentleman.
I live in East End, and I live in Regent Square. It's a quick drive down Braddock Avenue. I can be there in 10 minutes max.
Yeah.
And I like the way they've set up the delivery system now. I mean, I don't think they canned a beer before the pandemic began.
Not really, no.
No, but I used to love to go there. They always had, again, drink is not my problem. Food is my problem. They always had great food trucks.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So in fact, I miss the, used to be on Wednesday nights there. And I think they've closed the little bar there, but they would always have the Piper's Pub truck outside. And the fish and chips and the fish tacos there were just the best. I mean, that would get me there.
Yeah.
And I would try the beers.
Yeah.
And I said to the guy one time in the truck, I said, I think this fish and chips is better here off the truck than it is in the restaurant. And he said, well, it's because we're cooking it to order.
Right. Yeah. You get the fresher oil out of the fryer.
And you get it as soon as it's ready. You get it.
Yeah.
You walk right into the bar there and everything. So, but I do love their beers, and somebody comes to town, I always like to try to have some brewed gentlemen. And when they first started, they actually sent me a 4-pack, and I did a little video about it on my front porch because it was so nice and unexpected. And I think their cans are beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very simplistic, but they stand out.
You called it something. You called it
just the way they are designed. They're very similar to the Red Bull cans.
Oh, really?
Like that energy drink, because they're only about 12 ounces. Like most of the cans we're used to nowadays are 16 ounces.
Yeah.
They're also taller than the normal 12 ounce kind of stubby can that you would find like Iron City or Oscar Blues in. So yeah, I believe they specifically designed their cans,
which is really nice. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll say, as somebody who doesn't like to drink a whole lot at once, a 12-ounce can like that is perfect.
Yes. Well, it's funny because that's what I also have an East End wheat hop here. And I like East End beers a lot. I helped them a lot when they first started this 90 neighborhoods thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Doing a different beer for every neighborhood. And it's funny because I hadn't realized until I read something recently, and I thought, I used to go to all those, every one that I could. It's been, because of the pandemic, I don't think they've been doing them so much, but there were many neighborhoods. I remember Overbrook was a great time, and there was one over in the I guess the Mexican War streets. There was a great beer, and I mean all over. Scott's been very, very kind to me too. Mm-hmm. So But
Yeah.
then I just because your beer, Adam, interested me, and this is only 12 ounces too, I may try this. This is my great friend Matt Conrad, who lives now in Silver Spring, Maryland. He brings me beers when he comes to town, and this is called Dutch Monkey.
Oh,
Okay, and it's a sour. It's from Seven Locks Brewing in Rockville, Maryland. And I just like the idea that you're fruity beer, and this says with strawberries.
ooh.
Interesting.
So
we're having a virtual fruit salad right now.
yeah, and I like the way yours look too. I don't think this is quite that fruity. You know, it doesn't have quite the depth. But I also want to say I like beer out of a small glass.
Yes.
You know, often when you go somewhere and get a draft, it's in a giant, thing. But if you sometimes in thrift stores and stuff, you'll see old beer glasses, and I'll pick them up just because I like the fact that they're, a quick beer.
Oh yeah. Old thrift stores are great for older glassware, and as well as steins. Like if you're looking for old beer steins, you can find a lot in thrift stores. I've picked a couple up.
Can I just say that this is the most strawberry beer I've ever had, and I really like it.
Oh, nice.
Say strawberry is usually one of those flavors that's really hard to capture in any sort of quantity because it's mostly water. So it's hard to be able to capture that flavor. So they must have done something really good.
I really like it. I mean, it's what was it called? I was called Space Monkey. It's called, I'm sorry, I think I said Dutch Monkey. It's called Bitch Monkey.
Oh. Dutch
Bitch Monkey. I read it as Dutch, but it's bitch. Bitch Monkey sour ale with strawberries.
Huh.
I would do this again. It's for times when you find yourself on a bar stool and not in a kayak slicing through Great Falls, you've got your next adrenaline rush covered. This is a sour ale that unleashes a tart reminder that life is short, but water is rowdy.
Nice.
I like it.
It definitely also sounds like an outdoorsy beer though as well. Nice fruit flavor.
Yeah, I mean, at a picnic, it would be great.
Mm-hmm. So I find it very. You said this was near Rockville, Maryland. Was where they're out of?
Yeah, Rockville, Maryland.
So there's actually a whitewater training facility right near there on the Potomac.
Oh, maybe that's what they're talking
about. So I'm curious if that's the tie-in there.
Yeah, the Bitch Monkey has an oar and is in some kind of canoe. See?
Oh yeah,
that makes sense. That's got to be it. I wonder if there's some sort of local nomenclature that we're just not keyed in on.
Yeah, some Baltimore lingo.
I would say this is a surprise and a really good one.
Nice.
I don't know if you. I learned a lot about beer at Piper's Pub.
Yeah, that's a good place to learn.
It must be. Oh boy, could it be as long as 10 years? It's like 7 or 8 years, I would guess, ago. My friend at work, Manette C, said she knew a guy that worked in the kitchen at Piper's Pub. She said, let's go for lunch. And we went to lunch, and one of our waitresses tweeted, Rick Sebak and friends from QED are here. And this guy, whom I now am good friends with, Mike Nielsen, tweeted back, oh, please invite him to hashtag as is tradition. And I saw that. And so I responded to him and said, what is hashtag as is tradition? And it was Thursday nights at Piper's Pub. It was beer enthusiasts. And I made so many great friends. I mean, friends for life. Going on Thursday nights, talking about beer, drinking beer. I usually wouldn't even specify which one I wanted. Hart Johnson, I think, is still the bartender there.
Yeah.
I would just say, Hart, what should I drink tonight? And he would always, make a suggestion. I can remember the first time he gave me a sour, and I was like, wow. But because of that, I learned a lot, and it was a great time too. So
yeah. And Piper's is one of the few places, like not just in Pittsburgh, but like in the world, that you can get what's called real cask ale, and that's when they do those Firkin Fridays. and you get that real ale that, you know, is less carbonated, and it comes out, you know, some people would call it flat, but you get the full taste of, you know, the beers that come through. And, you know, I know a lot of people are looking forward to that coming back.
No, I can remember Hart saying, you know, you want this that's on cask tonight, you know. So
Yeah.
I learned a lot there, and I, you know, I would say it's a major influence. I think like on my social life as well as on my beer understanding.
So beer is the great equalizer. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're there with a beer in hand, a good conversation will take place.
Right.
And
Yeah.
everybody, it becomes equals.
Yeah. So along with the beer we're drinking tonight, I also have a little sidecar going. And the sidecar I have was graciously provided to us by Rick, and it is his very own cocktail that comes to us by way of Independent Brewing Company, another place you've been spending a good amount of time at. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the cocktail that you have inspired and is now sitting in my glass, and I'll drink on it and tell you what I think.
All right. Well, you know what? I've actually brought a bottle of it myself here, and I've not yet had one out of the bottle. They make them fresh there in the bar. And the first one, I did 2 shows for PBS, Breakfast Special and Breakfast Special 2, Revenge of the Omelets. And at that time, I think Independent Brewing had just opened, or was recently opened, and they sent me a note and said, hey, we have a drink that we're going to name after you. Why don't you stop by? And so that's why they had 2 names. They weren't sure if I was going to be upset or say, no, you can't do that, or, you know, you owe me $1 million. But so it had 2 names: A Gentleman's Breakfast, which was an allusion to these breakfast shows that I had just done, and then or the Rick Sebak. And I said, well, you know, I'm totally flattered. And on the little keg they had there, it said Rick Sebak. So it's basically an old fashioned. And instead of using simple syrup, it uses maple syrup. And I fully intended for tonight to try and get the correct garnishes. But I didn't have an orange in the house. I had a lemon, so I put a piece of lemon peel in here, and it's supposed to have a piece of orange peel and a chunk of candied bacon.
Yeah.
Which completes the whole breakfast theme. A little orange juice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I also don't have.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Cheers.
I just have a little.
I put mine in a WQED 25th anniversary cocktail glass, which I think is kind of nice that they did them for the 25th anniversary, which would have been in 79.
Oh my.
Yeah. These are amongst QED people. We love these glasses, and
that's an absolute classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's very nice. It's nice.
Ooh,
That's very smooth.
that is.
Yeah, it's, you know, I don't think they specify the kind of bourbon, but
that was going to be a
blonde
question,
bourbon.
but I will not ask it then.
No, that tastes great.
Yeah.
And those are available at Independent Brewing, and they're nice enough to make $2 of every bottle sold will go to WQED.
Yeah.
It's nice. I mean, I looked on it as a chance to help them survive. I mean, I know it's been rough for all kinds of little businesses like that to survive. And actually, because of the drink and all of that, I got to know Pete Kurzweig and Adam Henry. Adam Henry actually made the drink.
Okay.
And he's now, I think, a little more associated with Hidden Harbor, which is next door.
Mhm.
But they both own both of them, and along with, you know, they're the 2 visible owners. And the Hidden Harbor wasn't open yet when the drink first came out, but you know, they have. I mean, they're very careful about everything. Their kitchen is great. The food is great. The drinks are spectacular. And so during the pandemic last summer, you know, some people make sourdough bread during the pandemic. I've been baking cookies, and I make these cookies based on an old recipe of my mother's. but I add all kinds of ingredients. They're sort of catch-all cookies. And I just made a batch, and I saw on Facebook that it was Pete's birthday. So I texted him and I said, "Hey, are you at the bar today?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'll be here from 3 on," or something like that. And I said, "I'm going to drop by." He said, "Come early." So I was there by 4, and he said, "We'll have a beer here on the sidewalk." And we did. And then he said, "Now I got to go." He said, "I'm really sorry, but I'm playing records tonight." And I said, "What do you mean you're playing records tonight?" And he goes, "On Wednesday nights, we play old vinyl records." And I'd never noticed that on the front of the building, it says the Independent Brewing Company, beer, cocktails, something vinyl. And, vinyl is part of the whole shtick there. And he has an old dual turntable from his college days, so you can set one up and all of that, and be sort of an amateur DJ. And so I just said to him, "I want to do that." He said, "We love that." And I said, I have I still have all my vinyl from high school and college and all of that. And I said, "I'll bring my own records." And he goes, "That's even better." So I think I've done it every Wednesday since. And it's been during the pandemic, it's been something that I look forward to. And I'm all by myself. There's a bartender usually within view, and where you pick up your to-go orders. They do a lot of food to go. That is not far from where I sit at this dual turntable, but I wear a mask all the time, and except when I'm eating or drinking something, and it's just been a really wonderful. I don't know why I like it so much, but I play what I hope is an unpredictable, totally eclectic mix of records.
Nice. So when you get into that, do you have a set plan of the kind of a genre you want to dig into for that evening, or is it just on the fly?
Yes and no. Sometimes I plan in advance. I did 2 nights when I played, but I mean, it all depends on what I have in my collection. I have a significant collection in my spare bedroom, and I hadn't touched it in 20 or 25 years. But now I've been through it many times, and I keep going through it and discovering things. And because I've been doing it for so long, you give yourself license to play with things that you might not have done in the early days. Mm-hmm. And so tomorrow night, this Wednesday night, I'm going to play all soundtracks.
Ooh, oh, nice.
So, I mean, soundtracks are great because some of them already provide that weird mix that, mm-hmm. you might have a classical number next to, a doo-wop song kind of thing. And that's really what I like. I said, I like to put artists up against each other who you might not ever expect. Mm-hmm. So if you can play Marvin Gaye next to Ray Bolger from The Wizard of Oz singing "If I Only Had a Brain" or something like that, that's the kind of thing I like. And my collection is really, I like most music, but especially with a vocal. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of people singing. And but I played 2 nights when it was just songs about rivers.
Nice.
Oh, fantastic!
It was really
It's a fun theme.
I played 1.5 nights of just Beatle covers.
Oh, cool.
So, and that was fun and popular, and it included not only people covering the Beatles, but the Beatles covering someone else.
Oh, okay.
So
nice.
if they could, and as I go through, I think this soundtrack thing could last at least 2 nights. Because sometimes the soundtrack is in an unexpected place. Like this morning I discovered, I was just going through a stack in my spare bedroom, and I saw the soundtrack to La Bamba. Mm. And that's Los Lobos. And, I'll play some of that tomorrow night. And oddly, today in the New York Times, there's a huge article about that movie. It's 30 years old.
Okay.
That's serendipitous.
Yeah. Actually, it's 34 years old because it came out in 1987. But they did a follow-up article because it was one of the first Latino-oriented movies. Mm-hmm. It's the story of Richie Valens, who died in the plane crash with Buddy
Right.
Holly, like 1 year after he started to record. And so it's, sort of a tragic story. But Lou Diamond Phillips played him. And so they interviewed Lou Diamond Phillips. They interviewed the director of the movie. It was unusual. But I thought, just by serendipity, I pulled that out this morning and read that article today. So, I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And,
was there any artist or genre that you kind of rediscovered through this, going through your archives, that you kind of lost through time and then came back to?
Wow, that's a really good question. Probably many. I always have kind of had a love of country. So, I think sometimes we forget about that. But there are bands that I'd forgotten how much I liked. The DBs. It was a band from North Carolina, and I was at school in North Carolina. And so I remember that. But, other things that, I have more CDs than I have vinyl because I tried to replace almost everything. In fact, I was asking a couple guys last night, does anybody have a vinyl copy of Bat Out of Hell? Because I think I probably had one at one time, but it's not up there now.
Right.
And I know I have a CD of it, but Jim Steinman, who wrote all those songs, just died last week.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, it'd be nice to play some of that just because I love that album. And I saw Meatloaf live once at Graffiti in North Oakland, and I would say it's one of the best concerts I ever saw. It was in the off years when he was playing places like Graffiti.
Right.
He wasn't playing, the Civic Arena or something, but he had two girls in black leather jackets and fishnet stockings, and they were singing backup, but they treated him with such disdain. They didn't want to have anything to do with them except that they were singing backup, and it was a great shtick. I assume it was shtick, but it was well played and it was really fun. But just getting to remind yourself of artists. I saw Warren Zevon once at Graffiti too.
Oh, and, nice.
I love those reminders of cool things you got to see. And actually, I played a lot of Jules Shear. I don't know if you know that guy. He was in Jules and the Polar Bears, and then he's written a lot of songs that became hits for I don't want to say Madonna, but people.
But like pop acts.
Yeah, pop acts did various songs by Jules Shear, but he's from Squirrel Hill.
Oh, okay.
And so I like that. And I've started a stack of all Pittsburgh. I'll do one night at least of all Pittsburgh, because there's all kinds of crazy things. And I love that Billy Strayhorn is from Pittsburgh, and he wrote stuff for Duke Ellington, including Take the A Train. That was Duke Ellington's theme song, but Billy Strayhorn met him downtown at the Stanley Theater. Someone introduced them, and Billy Strayhorn was a phenomenal pianist here in town and doing all this stuff. And Duke Ellington said, I want you to come to New York. And he gave him directions, including Take the A Train. and that's where that song comes from. But Billy Strayhorn also wrote Lush Life.
Okay.
And many standards. Really great, great songs.
That's awesome.
I love playing with all of that.
And one of the great things is you've mentioned how you're spinning records at Independent, and a lot of people get to enjoy it by walking up, but also there is a digital component to that people can watch you spin records on Twitch.
On Twitch,
at twitch.tv/independentpgh. So
exactly
people can check you out on Wednesdays and watch you spin records. So I think that's pretty cool.
I like it too because friends all over the country can do it. Can tune in and click on the link, and all of a sudden, my friend Sandy in Houston is listening, and my friend Buck in Florida is listening, and Louise in South Carolina, they're all listening in, and it's fun.
That's awesome. So one quick question before we wrap up this segment, but I wanted to ask you if you could go back to any of your docs that you've done in the past. Is there any one that you would like to update? Because I watched a recent one of, not recent, but 2013, you did the best sandwich in Northside. And obviously our culinary, I don't know, repertoire, I would say, in Pittsburgh has expanded since then even. But like, is there anything that you've done that you would like to go back and revisit and update because you found something better that you want to add to it?
It's a great question. I've often thought, I did Holy Pittsburgh early on, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't, how goofy could I be? How religious did I had to be, and all of that. I wouldn't mind, looking at that again. But I also know that, I would in a second redo hot dogs, hot dog program. I would redo sandwiches. Those are two of my most popular national programs. And things have changed. I mean, the O has closed.
Yeah.
That was the last story in my national show about hot dogs. And the way we usually put a show together is we go out, we gather all this material, and then another producer had told me there at QED, you want to pick your best story and put it first. Your next best or equally best you want at the end. You want a nice strong story in the middle, and then you want to string the others like a necklace in between. The O was no question the only story that could end the show. It was so great.
Absolutely.
And it was like in our backyard, and so I will miss the O forever. And they had great natural casing dogs. That's like sort of my first test. Does this place have natural casing dogs? Because I wanted to have a snap.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Like at Frank's Hot Dogs in Columbia, South Carolina. But the O had great natural casing dogs, and it was also a perfect example of what we were talking about, the leveler. In the O,
everybody showed up.
Everybody was there, and sitting, sharing the table with you. And those places are very rare. And and I really like that. I think the O got blamed for a lot of things in Oakland. But
Hemingways can share a lot of blame on that.
The very first show that I did in Pittsburgh was called Transplant Town, because in 1987, when I moved back to Pittsburgh, more organ transplants were done in Pittsburgh than any other city in the world. More organ transplants were done here than in the rest of the world combined.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's amazing. We were the world's capital of organ transplants. And as part of that, we had arranged to go in and videotape an operation with Dr. Starzl.
Oh, wow.
And it takes a lot to get, all the permissions and the family notified that there's going to be a crew there, and, all of this kind of stuff. And we had to be there at like 4 a.m. to get, the correct garb on and all kinds of hair nets and that kind of stuff. And I would say about 6 a.m., the word came down that the donor organ wasn't going to make it. And so it had to all be canceled. And so, 6:30 in the morning, and we sort of went up to Dr. Starzl's office, and he said, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really hungry. Let's go to the O. And I had never been to the O. I was a new guy in Pittsburgh. And so my first trip to the O was with Dr. Starzl. At that time, the O was open 24 hours a day. And, I remember going down there and we walked in and he said, I don't have any money. He said, I'll find a med student who'll lend me the money. So, it was just that kind of a thing. And over the years, they've been very, very nice to me. And really the story we did there, I'm still very, very proud of. So I wouldn't mind redoing hot dogs. I wouldn't mind redoing sandwiches because I still love a great sandwich. And, I had one the other day at Eat Unique on Craig Street. And it was turkey and artichokes. And just really, it was moist and gooey and, not too much bread. I worry that sandwiches can have too much bread.
It's always the biggest problem.
So, quick question: is a hot dog a sandwich?
You know, I probably come down on the yes side.
Yes.
You are in good company then.
Yeah, I mean, because it's meat between two pieces of bread, you know. And
Thank you.
It's yeah. I mean, and I can remember times when we were kids. You'd take a piece of white bread and just put the hot dog in it.
Mhm.
You didn't need
Also
a bun.
done that. Been there.
But
Awesome.
yeah,
I say I've been a full-blown adult and done that.
Well, hey, they still come in mismatched numbers sometimes. So
That's true.
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
You get 10 hot dogs and 8 buns, or whatever.
Yeah,
So.
awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap up segment 2, and then we're going to come back with segment 3, and we've put a little game together for Rick. We're going to play a little Would You Rather, and we have some, hopefully, interesting questions for Rick, but also, some that really make him debate what he would rather do.
All right.
So we'll be right back with segment 3 right after this. Okay. I am all good to go.
I'm recording. I have my beer. I have a positive attitude.
Nice. I also have all of those things.
Excellent.
And I just got to look up. Ooh, trying to spell interdimensional is not easy at the moment.
Well, if you just write enter and then scribble the rest.
I'm trying to look up this Helltown beer. Here we go. Oh, all right. There's no info on Untapped either.
Oh, great.
I used to be a regular Untapped guy, but I bet I haven't put anything on there in quite some time.
Yeah, it's I use it just for like reference on the show anymore. Like if there's any extra ingredients or anything that you can't find on the can, I like to just point out like what kind of hops and stuff you can find. But yeah, there's nothing on this one. So, but yeah, I'm ready to go if everybody else is.
I'm ready.
Okey-doke. Welcome back to episode 200 of the Hop Nation USA podcast. And we're still live with Pittsburgh legend Rick Sebak. And we're going to play a game this segment. And we're going to ask him, would he rather? But first, we, of course, are going to get to the beers that we're all drinking in this segment. And I will start with Adam this time.
So before we get to that,
Yeah.
I wanted to mention some of the other shows that we are now on equal footing now that we have reached 200 episodes.
Oh, fun facts.
We have the same number of episodes as Coach, Beavis and Butthead, Sailor Moon, and That 70s Show.
Oh, great.
So we are upper echelon. Take that, Craig T. Nelson.
And how many years do we have to do this to get on the level of Simpsons?
Oh,
Well,
Well,
I'm pretty sure our children will have to take over eventually.
good enough.
But in episode 201, we will be on equal footing with The Office. So we'll take the power back from the eastern side of the state.
But do you know how quickly we were able to beat the Office British version? So fast.
So fast.
So fast.
Unfortunately, Ricky Gervais took all the money,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
none left for us.
Well, one thing or the other. You get either a whole bunch of episodes or you get the money.
I'll take the prestige, please and thank you.
All right.
And
What are you
also
drinking,
take
though?
the beer. Yes. This is another local favorite. This comes from Hitchhiker. This is the Shakes. This is a coffee porter. Clocks in at 5.9. I mean, it's a porter. It's a good looking unit. It's got that nice dark and it's got a good roastiness to it. We've had the triple shakes on here before.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just an absolute, that's the kind of beer you need to plan ahead with a little bit. This one, not so much. This is just a good old fashioned coffee porter. I like it. It has a good coffee nose to it. It does on the taste have a good bit of maltiness. It's just a good coffee porter.
Okay.
Yeah, hat tip to Hitchhiker, who, surprise, surprise, made another good beer.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know already, this show runs on coffee porters and coffee stouts. So you're rarely going to hear a bad word about either of those on this show.
But if there is a bad word, we will tell you.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Because we really like those.
Yeah, we really like those. So we'd be super disappointed if we found a bad one.
That's so interesting. If I were in a bar, I would never order a coffee porter.
Really?
Not even a porter. I just find that they're heavy in a way that I don't like a drink to be. You know, they're substantial,
Right?
Yes.
and I don't know. I've never stouts and porters just have never thrilled me.
Yeah.
So
If you're sitting down with a stout or a porter, like that's definitely, you're either going dessert and you're ending your night on a dessert, or you're headed towards like a big steak dinner. That's what I think coffee porters and stouts go really well with, is just like a nice big steak dinner, and then you're headed for a nap. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, but
Oh,
if
yeah.
it's coffee, I don't want it till the end of the meal.
fair enough. Yeah.
No, I often remember I've been to Ireland several times, and one of the first times I was in my great grandmother on my mother's side is from County Donegal, which is up in the northwest corner of Ireland. It's as far north as Northern Ireland, but it's not in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
It's still in Ireland, and in Donegal town, there's a great pub there. I've been several times, and I went in there the first time I ever went in, and I sat at the bar, and the bartender said, "What can I get you?" or whatever. And I said, "I'll have a Guinness." And, you know, he poured it and brought it over. And the old man sitting next to me said, "Just so you know, you don't drink Guinness here." I said, "Oh yeah?" And he said, "It's from Dublin. It doesn't travel well."
Oh,
And I said to him, "You should taste it in America." I mean, you know, Dublin is all of like 2 hours from
right. Yeah.
Donegal town, 2 or 3 hours at the max. But you know, it's so I then switched to whatever everybody else was drinking, you know, something more local.
That's funny. It doesn't travel well. So for myself, I do have something that travels well enough, because I switched. Usually I would say I'm switching to the rocket fuel on the third segment. But you know, I'm still also drinking on this wonderful Rick Sebak cocktail, which is way higher on ABV. But I did switch to the rocket fuel as far as beer, and I have the Helltown Interdimensional Pterodactyl, which is a triple hazy IPA, and it comes in at 10% on the ABV.
Ooh boy.
Yeah, it's a nice big beer. And honestly, Adam, you know, we talk about how you don't like IPAs. You could get by on this one though.
Really?
Yeah, because again, it follows that rule of it's so big that it can't be bitter.
Oh, does it kind of go into the like 120-minute IPA category?
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's a little bit of bitter hopness, but it is so big and malty as well that I don't think you would be that mad at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I mean,
also
if I had 2
10%.
of them, I don't think I'd be mad at anything.
No, not at all. It's also 10%, so you'd be fine.
Have you altered the color in that picture, or is it you got Fanta orange?
Yeah, the photo is backlit with a red light, but the social media will see some other photos that I've taken. But I just like, because now it gives me a little flair in my background. But yeah, it's good beer otherwise. Rick, have you do you have something you'd like to feature this segment?
Well, I mean, this is another one of the wonderful things I picked up from Pete Kurzweg at Independent Brewing, and it's from Grist House. You know, Millvale, always near and dear to my heart, and it's Conspiracy Tangle. It's a New England IPA, 7.2, and I will give it a try.
Nice.
And,
I was debating at the beer store between this beer that I'm drinking now and the Grist House Phantom Stranger. So I'm glad Rick brought on a Crest House, because now we've hit pretty much every popular brewery in Pittsburgh.
I assume that was part of the deal.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I even mentioned one from Rockville, Maryland. So
Right, yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here.
Oh, another sip of this as well.
It's nice and beery after that strawberry sour, which was so strawberry. And although called a sour, it was really sweet.
Yeah, we've noticed that it's not like a great naming convention, because like the one Adam was drinking, I guarantee, without tasting it, was more sweet than a lot of sours that you have.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree.
No, this tastes like something that I could drink with a meal, you know, and really like it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we've noticed is it's funny how certain beers will, you know, they eschew themselves to certain things, whether it's, you know, kind of start the day or be part of the meal or be the dessert. And 20 years ago, you never had that with beer.
No. Yeah, like beers now can actually just be the dessert. They don't have, you don't even have to order a piece of pie, but you can.
Yeah.
Or cheesecake, as would be my preference, but
that's it. You could just go to, you know, have an 11th hour slice.
Yeah. But
and that would be your dessert right there.
Yeah. But like I was just saying, like I find coffee porters and stouts pair really well with steak, but like what Rick is drinking, I would probably pair that with like a chicken dish of some sort. So yeah.
And what's fantastic is, go ahead, Rick.
That I'd really like to do. I would really like to do a show on fried chicken.
Ooh.
If you need an associate producer, let me know. I'll work pro bono on that.
Yeah.
Just because, again, it's some, you know, I think every culture does some fried chicken. You know, like chicken parm is fried chicken.
Right.
You know, and Asian chicken is just amazing.
Yeah, because you have like Korean fried chicken, and that's different from like tempura fried chicken.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been to Chicken Bubbly in Oakland, but
I have not.
It's really, it's wings. You can also get takoyaki, little octopus balls.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And the bubbly that they're talking about is really not beers, but you know, teas, milk teas with.
The boba tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are delicious. I love those.
Yeah. So, taro milk tea is my order there. So
yeah, that's really good. There, I found a place up on Robinson, Saigon 88 Express, I believe. They do a really good taro milk tea.
Robinson?
Yeah, in Robinson. It's right on Ohio River, or
no, Steubenville Pike.
Steubenville Pike, thank you. Not Ohio River Boulevard.
That's a completely different part of town.
Yeah, Steubenville Pike. It's right along there. It's
Saigon 88.
Saigon Express, actually.
Oh.
I don't think it's Saigon.
There's a Vietnamese restaurant on Route 88 in Castle Shannon.
Yeah. And I used to live next to that place, and I love that place.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been there many times myself. I really like it.
Yeah. Fuck him 88.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. They have great sushi as well as on top of Vietnamese food. But all right, we're doing super local like restaurant stuff.
At this point, this episode is just for us.
Yeah, it really is. But let's get into the game we prepared.
Right.
Rick, we've prepared a number of would you rather scenarios for you. And I'll just start off really simply. Would you rather never have a hot dog again or never be able to use Heinz products again?
How can you answer that without getting in trouble?
Exactly. Sorry to put you in the hot seat, but that's the game.
I would give up the Heinz products before I give up the hot dogs. Because I mean, the Heinz product I think that we all love the most is ketchup, and I don't want that on a hot dog. And there are other mustards that I've come to love more than Heinz mustard. And actually, I find that, you know, I'm more interested in a pickle that would come from a small company
than
a giant, you know. And on top of that, there are no Heinz products made in Pittsburgh now.
Right.
And so, you can give yourself a little leeway there. I mean, I know that we're all very, loyal to Heinz ketchup, but it's made in Fairmont, Ohio or something. It's not made here. Before I'd give up natural tasting wieners, I would give up the Heinz condiments to put on them. Yeah.
The snap is strong.
Yeah.
But it's a good question.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. And it really is the crux of whether or not you want the ketchup, because I'm either a mustard and sauerkraut or just a chili and cheese hot dog guy. So I'm not really interested in ketchup either. So,
well, the thing is, I mean, ketchup maybe for fries. I still love ketchup on fries, but I can also go with mayo.
Hey, honey mustard is actually pretty good with fries too, if you want to try that out.
So actually, I'll go sweet and sour sauce, like a fast food sweet and sour sauce with French fries.
Yeah.
You know what? But you can also make some concoction. I mean, ketchup is really like it's an Asian food, I think, originally, that had all kinds of, you could do something probably with fish sauce and more anchovies and onions and garlic and that kind of thing, and make your own really wild ketchup. Oh,
for sure.
So I can say that, and
and you can also just make like the boom boom sauce, which is usually just mayo and sriracha or some sort of hot sauce stirred in together. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
But a great question.
Okay. Good deal. Adam, do you have a would you rather for Rick?
As a matter of fact, I do.
All right.
Rick, would you rather have an open free ticket to all shows and sporting events in Pittsburgh, or an open table at every restaurant in Pittsburgh?
No question. It's tables. That one's not even hard. I mean, you could count the number of sporting events I've been to, on my two hands. And you know what? And many of them have been for work. It's when you do what I do, you realize that, I early on realized that there are enough people covering sports that I don't have to worry about it.
All you have to do is jump on Twitter to realize that.
Yeah. I mean, and I know people are very passionate about it, but I look at the sports section, but just glancing. You want to. I mean, I think everybody, or at least I always think, you want to be well-rounded. So you want to have a little bit of that knowledge, and you want to be able to. And I adore the effect that sports have on this town of Pittsburgh. When we're in a championship, this town is like levitated.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And I like that.
Work is so much easier when the Pens are winning.
Oh yeah, because everybody has something to talk about. Everybody's in a good mood.
Stanley Cup time, if we're there, it's just amazing.
It is.
Everybody's in a sparkle kind of mood.
There's an electricity in the air.
Yes, totally. If we're going to the Super Bowl, actually, I don't know, Ernie Richie, who has Richie Sausage out in Kennedy Township, he talked to me about, how that football making the playoffs really affects his business.
Oh, I'm sure.
I believe it.
Big time.
Yeah, the number of parties, the number of cookouts.
One playoff game, he reaps in all kinds of benefits because people come to get sausage to serve at their parties.
Yeah, that's great. All right, Rick, I have one that might be a little harder for you.
All right.
You go back in time 400 years to see what the confluence looked like before it was Pittsburgh, or you can go forward 150 years to see what Pittsburgh becomes. And it's just kind of like a 1 hour, almost like walking tour, just to, get a sense of how the city was before it was a city, or how the city will be in the future.
What's 400 years? 1721.
Yeah. Yeah. So like probably even before there was just a Fort Pitt. You're just seeing.
Oh yeah. Several decades before.
Yeah.
I've considered that. I like that idea. trying to think if I can remember the guy's name. I've never found this. I've read about it, but the first description of the point by a European is a fur trader from Detroit traveling to Philadelphia. I like it for several different reasons. His name is Michel Bessaillon.
Okay.
And his name is spelled 1,000 different ways. You can find Michael Bazillion, or but
I like Michael Bazillion. That's great.
That's a good DJ name.
Yeah.
I don't think before I read about him that I realized that we think of everything west of here as being newer, but Detroit is older. And that's because it was French, and it was so close to Canada. That was New France. It wasn't the United States yet. But Detroit is an older city than Pittsburgh, and the Bessaillons or the Bazillions helped found Detroit. And apparently, his brother was working in Philadelphia, and he was traveling to see him. And he goes, "Oh, there's this place where two rivers come together, and it's just a sort of beautiful phenomenon." And it was enough for him to write about. That's the first known description of the point, and that's I'm going to say that's around 1720, or about the time we're talking about. I might choose that. I might choose the old rather than the new, because we might be disappointed by the new.
Hey, I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah. I do as well.
The untouched nature.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say I can ask you guys a trivia question.
Okay.
We all know about the forts that were built at the point. Do you know the name of the first fort built at the point?
It's not Fort Liberty, is it?
No.
Okay, then nope, I'm out.
If I remember correctly, it was French, correct?
No.
Oh, well then I'm right out.
No. The first fort built at the point was called Fort Prince George, and we never hear about it.
Oh, all right.
No,
I never knew that was a thing.
Yeah, no, and the only reason I was in a bookstore one time and I saw a book that was like posters of American railroads, and I thought, oh, I wonder if there are any pictures of Pittsburgh, and it was a Pennsylvania Railroad poster that included people at the point building Fort Prince George, and I thought, I've never even heard of Fort Prince George, but it was like 40 Virginians who had come up here after George Washington had been here. George Washington gives an early description of looking down from Mount Washington to the confluence and seeing that and saying, oh, this is a strategic point that people should, know about. I say, the Native Americans were smart enough to not build anything there because it flooded all the time.
Right.
Bring on the Europeans who were going to build anywhere. But and that's obviously a huge problem until the 1950s and 60s when they start building dams way up the rivers to control them. Even
still today, though, there's sometimes you can't park. So
right, exactly. We live in probably the only city in America where the morning weather report includes a report about a parking garage. The Mon Wharf is closed today. Yeah. But it's I like the idea of seeing it before there's anything, and but there must have been there were things to see, I think, and certainly to see it, in its pristine condition. I think that could be cool. But Fort Prince George, they started to build it, was 40 Virginians. And while they were working on Fort Prince George, one day they looked up the Allegheny and there were 500 canoes and like 30 boats full of Frenchmen coming down the
Oh,
river.
wow.
And they said, we'd rather you not be here. And the Virginians said, okay. They left. Now, the French may have used some of their work to build Fort Duquesne. But that comes first. So, you know, you're right. Of the forts we know, the first one was French, Fort Duquesne. You know, and then the British get upset about that. That's the whole French and Indian War. And Braddock comes and he tries to get them to leave, but he's a total disaster. And he's, you know, he only gets as far as what is now Braddock. And then when John Forbes comes, he makes it all the way, but the French had a similar reaction when they realized how many British troops were coming with Forbes, and sort of said like, "Oh, we won't get out of the way.
This is a problem."
There wasn't a battle for Fort Duquesne. They burned it and got it. But you know, there was the big battle before that, and I always think some of this I think could interest kids in high school, and it's not really taught. But when Forbes stopped, I think like he may have been at Ligonier or something like that. He sent out an advance party to sort of see what they could see. And that's General Grant, not Ulysses S. Grant.
Oh, that was going to be my next question.
A little early.
Yeah.
I believe it's James Grant that he sends out, who's a Scots guy, general. And he has 800 men. And they come into town and check out the scene, see what they can see. And Grant says, I think we can do this. And it has to be the bloodiest day in Pittsburgh history. The French and Indians attack Grant, and they slaughter like 300 of his 500 men or 800 men.
Oh my.
And you know, we named Grant Street after him. He lived. He was taken prisoner, but he lived, and then eventually he's let go. But you can read all kinds of things about this in the French and Indian War and stuff like that. But then when the French realize the force that's coming with Forbes, of which Grant was just an advance party, they get out. And I don't know why, but I always think of this as being the troop, Forbes and his men coming down the boulevard of the Allies. You know, it was an Indian trail they were coming down. We now, you know, then later named the Forbes Road. But the French and Indian had put the heads of all the men they'd killed on stakes, so that when they came into town, that was intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, just that little detail. I think if I were in high school, that might get me to pay more attention to history.
That would absolutely hook somebody.
Yeah.
Make somebody stand up and go, oh, wow, that's oof.
So,
Adam, do you have another would you rather for Rick?
Oh, absolutely. Would you rather travel to Germany to do a documentary on beer, or all of America for a documentary on pizza?
I think I go pizza. In fact, I proposed that at one point. And just talking the other day about possible things that we can start up now, you know, with a little loosening of the pandemic and everything. I have some, before I did a series of 7-8 shows called Nebby.
Mm-hmm.
For that, I did some local shows. These were all half hours. I did a show called It's Pittsburgh and a lot of other stuff. Mm-hmm. And as part of that, I had put ideas up on the wall in the editing room, and some of them are still there. And one of them that I still like is Pizzaburg.
Oh,
ooh.
You know, just do a show about pizza in Pittsburgh. And Hal Klein, I don't know if you know the writer Hal Klein, a food writer. He's been writing for Pittsburgh Magazine, but he does lots of stuff online too. And he's a great writer, and he really knows his stuff. And he's been writing a lot about the effect of places like Police Station Pizza in Ambridge.
Oh yeah, wow.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Influenced pizza all the way down the Ohio Valley.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know, Speedos in Mount Lebanon with
Right.
cold cheese. And I was trying to talk to somebody, and I said, there's another place in Washington, PA, Osso's, and they
Okay.
also put the cheese on late.
Yeah.
It's not cold, but and I just think it could be a good show. I mean, I have my favorites, and my cameraman Frank, as a kid, had his own pizza shop in Penn Hills called Visano Pizza.
Okay.
And I know that he would love it because he's very picky about pizza. He's totally a Fiore's or
Ooh.
Napoli pizza in the Miracle Mile in Monroeville. And, but I also like Ironborn. I got an Ironborn pizza for my editor and me the other day. And I don't know if you know those. There's one in
I haven't had
Millvale.
them.
There's one in the Strip. It's Detroit style pizza. Here we
Yes.
are.
Oh,
Detroit
okay.
and it's a very thick, but when you get it, it somewhat collapses. But it's a high puffy pizza.
Yeah, it's very airy in the dough, but
Yes.
yeah, you can squish it. Yeah, yeah, but yeah. I do like Detroit style. I mean, like even Jets, even though it's a chain, there's a
I don't know
Jets.
that at all. Is there Jets?
Yeah,
They're on Banksville Road, if I remember correctly.
yeah. Jets is on Banksville. Yeah, and there might be another one, but yeah, there's a Jets in Banksville, and it's chain pizza, but it's chain Detroit style, and it's pretty good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I earlier you said something about you can get a slice, and I love slice pizza too, which is in Beachview, and I don't know if they still got a place in PNC Park. They were there for, now there's so many things that I don't know the status of,
right,
because of the pandemic and everything. And actually, my cameraman Frank, who I just mentioned, who had the pizza place when he was a kid, he sent me a picture because he knows my predilections. It's soft shell crab season, and he sent me a picture of some soft shell crabs from Woolies.
Yeah.
And he said there's a sign in Parma sausage that says for lease.
Oh,
And that to me is on the scale of the O.
yeah,
Are we going to lose Parma sausage?
yeah. That's kind of a bummer.
I don't know the story. And I haven't had time to check up or, see if I can contact somebody in the family or something. But oh my God,
That's an institution at this point.
Yeah.
I would hate to see Parma sausage. Maybe they're moving to a different location or something like that.
I hope.
It'd be okay. I just don't want them to leave town.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a shame to lose them. Yeah. Oh, that's a downer. I don't want to end on a downer.
All right, I'll bring this up. If you had to have a choice between New York style, Chicago style, or Detroit style pizza, which would you go with?
That's a hard one. I mean, having just talked about Detroit, I still might say if it's got to be just one, I might go New York. I mean, Chicago is just so weird, and
it's a lot.
It is a lot. You have to be in the right frame of mind for Chicago style pizza.
You got to be in like buffet mindset to put one of those down.
Nobody's walking away from this one.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think. I don't know who's got New York style pizza in Pittsburgh. I'm not really sure whether you consider, is Fiore's New York style?
Yeah, I would guess so. Maybe even Pizza Sola in the South Side.
Oh yeah.
I might consider them New York style just because they also sell by the slice, and it's usually a really big slice. So I might go Pizza Sola, but I mean, I like that as far as getting by after the night.
I mean, I'm certainly one who worries about the toppings and all of that. And, as long as I can have sausage and anchovies, I'm good.
Nice.
All right.
That's a good order.
Those are my favorite toppings.
That's a good order. I like a good bacon and anchovy.
Oh, that sounds good too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No,
I'll admit, I'm a bacon and pineapple man myself.
Yeah.
I'm pro pineapple. I will defend it to my death.
The guy I knew who I worked with in South Carolina just posted a picture. He had made clam and porchetta. That sounded pretty good.
That sounds
clam and porchetta. I think that mix which I think is sort of traditionally Portuguese or something, clam and ham
Mhm.
together.
It would. I think it would work though, because it sounds very salty. Like it sounds like a very salty slice, but I'd be into it. All right.
Clam pizza, I always dream about. I don't know if I've ever really had one. Actually, there's a place now in White Oak that has clam pizza.
Oh, okay.
Oh, all right. Well then, road trip planned.
Yeah.
And I found out about it because of Hal Klein's writings about pizza.
Oh, okay. So it all comes full circle back to Hal Klein and his love for pizza.
Rocket Pizza in White Oak. So.
Rocket Pizza, cool.
But I think we could do a great program about Pittsburgh chocolate places.
Mm-hmm.
That we have great chocolate shops here.
Oh yeah, Saris, and then
little ones like Dorothy's in White Oak, which I love. But there's Betsy Ann up in Westview. I'd done a story there, but I could do another one. And I think there are a couple places out there near Hanky Farms. Out that way, there's some other chocolate shops.
Oh yeah, and I think there's like one in Uniontown. I wish I could remember the name, but it's a candy shop that they do a lot of stuff.
I believe you're right. Yeah,
can't remember the name of it though. There's also a good fried chicken place it's just like a truck stop. It's great. I used to when I used to do deliveries, I used to stop there.
It's at the bottom of the Uniontown Hill, isn't it?
I believe so, and it's like if you know where that Walmart is, that's just right on 51, in the middle of Uniontown. It's right across from it, but yeah.
Okay.
Again, we're super local.
Hey.
Yeah, but I want to take the time. I want to say thank you, Rick, for coming on the show. It was a great time.
Thank you guys for having me.
I want to give you all the time you can to just like plug whatever you have coming up, any kind of, if you want to plug the drink again, if you want to plug shows coming up on WQED, anything you want to, your Twitch channel for
charities,
your records,
anything like that. Yeah. The mic is yours.
I would say I would definitely mention the Rick Sebak cocktail is at Independent Brewing in Squirrel Hill. It's on Shady Avenue. Yeah, there we go. And I don't know if you know this guy who did the label, Mark Buckholtz. He goes by the Alternate Histories is the name of his business, but he does really cool things with monsters and everything. He made that picture of me sort of as a monster coming out of the Mon about 5 or 6 years ago, and I remembered it when they started talking about a label, and I said, if you're talking to Mark, remind him of that picture he did of me because I really liked it. I've been working for about I'm going to say 3 weeks now on an assignment at QED about doing a short history of WQED. And it's been more fun than I ever could imagine. So I'm calling it a very quick history of an unusual television station. And actually, it's going to premiere, I think, online as part of our annual report. That's where the assignment came from, just to have something in our annual report about the history. And at first I was going to try and do 15 minutes, but it's hard to do 67 years in 15 minutes.
Yeah, but that's a lot.
Yeah.
But we've kept it under 30. So I think that's, that'll be coming up, and it will air eventually, but it will probably be online before it's available on TV, which is the modern world. And I put aside a project that I'd started a little bit earlier in the pandemic. In 1989, I got to interview August Wilson in New York when he was doing Piano Lesson. He was Pittsburgher of the Year for Pittsburgh Magazine. And we used to do a show every year about the Pittsburgher of the Year. So we went to New York to talk to him. And it's a really interesting point in his career. He's won 1 Pulitzer Prize. He would win one the next year for Piano Lesson, which he's working on when I talk to him. But he's just an very interesting guy who wrote a lot about Pittsburgh, even though by then he had left Pittsburgh. First he went to Minneapolis, and then he ends up in Seattle. But then he comes back here and he's buried here. So I will have that August Wilson thing eventually finished, and that's my next project. And who knows what comes after that? I don't know. If I'm lucky, we'll do a national show about numbered highways, but nothing is for certain. And it could be fried chicken.
Why not both?
Why not both? But if I'm pushing for one, I'm pushing for fried chicken. It's an interest of mine.
Well, I'm going to be the contrarian and say if I'm pushing for one, I'm pushing for numbered highways.
All right.
I have a genuine interest in that. I'll be honest.
I know you do. I know you watch that America show on the Discovery Channel that has like the flyover drone footage all the time.
That's on Nat Geo.
Whatever.
Aerial America.
Yeah.
That's a good way to spend a Saturday morning.
Well, it could be Pittsburgh.
I'd watch that too. I'll be honest.
Into that as well.
All right. I thank you guys very much.
Yes.
It was an totally enjoyable evening.
Yes.
The pleasure is all ours. Trust
Exactly.
me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's all on us. We love having you on, and we could have listened to you for 3 more hours, talk about the history of Pittsburgh and everything around Pittsburgh. I don't think there's a better resource. You being a documentarian, there's no better resource for things about Pittsburgh and just the culture. And I feel bad for other cities that don't have a Rick Sebak who is willing to champion Pittsburgh the way you do.
Well,
So,
thanks.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now we have our own archive of Rick Sebak stuff. So.
And we will not be deleting that.
Yeah.
Good.
Rick Sebak has his Wendy King stuff. We have Rick Sebak talking about Wendy King. It all goes in a chain. One day somebody will interview Adam about Hop Nation USA. But if you want to find Hop Nation USA, all you have to do is search Hop Nation USA on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and that'll get you all those social medias. And if you want to listen to brand new episodes of Hop Nation USA podcast every Friday, as you should, then search Hop Nation USA in your favorite podcatcher, including Stitcher, Podbean, Google Music, Apple Music, Spotify, Player FM. Man, I got to really remember a lot of these better. But if you're on any of those platforms, leave a 5-star review, because
we are a 6 canoes coming down the Allegheny show, but they only let us use 5.
And that's a bigger crime than not hitting all of the pizza places that you can in Pittsburgh, because we don't have a style the same way we don't have a style for barbecue. We just kind of take what comes to us and we just do whatever with it.
Make it good.
Yeah, there's a lot of different Pittsburgh pizza styles. There's a lot of different Pittsburgh barbecue styles. You can find everything. And there's also a lot of good Thai food. I don't know why that is, but it's there. And I love it because I love Thai food.
That's right. 0 complaints in this category.
Yeah, no complaints on cultural diversity as far as food goes. But
Well, then I say, you have to try Mae Nam Thai and Blanox. That's my
Okay.
favorite.
okay.
And, I just wanted to say, congratulations. Happy 200.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Greatly appreciate that.
I was a big fan of Thai cuisine in Lawrenceville. That was my number one for a long time.
Oh, see, I'm a Thai gourmet in Bloomfield.
Oh, okay.
I love that place too. And that's really convenient for us from Oakland.
Yeah.
But Thai gourmet or Mae Nam Thai. But I'll try any Thai.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's all great food. But yeah, stick with us. This was episode 200. That means we're moving on to 200 more. And hopefully we'll get to back out the beer fest. We'll get out the breweries. Hopefully we'll get to see Rick around at some of the beer fests coming up, especially in September, because boy, oh boy, there's a whole bunch of them.
We just need to take the month of September off.
Oh, it's wet September, and we already called it. But
yes, thank you for everybody for sticking with us for 200 episodes. Thank you for making the show what it is. Without you, the listeners, we wouldn't be here. We would just be yelling into the void about nothingness.
Yes.
So thank you for sticking with us. If you have any questions, if you want to hear us talk about anything, hopnationusa@gmail.com or at us on the social media. Just let us know. We'll talk about it. We don't mind.
indeed. And with that, we'll see you for 201. And I can guarantee within the next 10 episodes, we'll be back in a brewery. How about that?
That's a Steve guarantee.
Guarantee.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.